President Obama this morning signing those so-called free trade agreements with South Korea, Panama, and Colombia to make a big deal about three countries which have vastly less purchasing power than, let's say, California, while simultaneously employing North Korean slaves and enhancing bank secrecy, would seem to be little more than a sideshow to the massive economic problems facing our nation because of the lack of capital requirements and transparency in our banking system, the auction nature of our tax code, and the rigged nature of our trade policies. Remember, from NAFTA to today, all trade deals in the past 20 years have cost us jobs, not helped us. Instead of job creators, every single trade deal thus far has been a net job loser for America. The numbers simply don't lie. After NAFTA was signed in '93, the U.S. lost more than 879,000 directly to Canada and Mexico, and that $1.5 billion trade surplus we have with Mexico soon tuned into a $97 billion trade deficit. As for the deals today, the South Korean deal alone, they're saying could cost 159,000 jobs. In fact, the job losses from the new trade deals advocated by the Republicans and the president were so bad that the Democrats insisted on adding an extra sticker of spending to the trade deals to pay off the people who are going to lose their jobs through the job-creating trade deals. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Brad Miller, a man against these trade deals, and Clyde Prestowitz, president of the Economic Strategy Institute, who also counseled President Reagan's Commerce Secretary while in office. Let's be very clear, and I think I can speak for the three of you and a lot of other folks. No one thinks that trade deals or doing trade deals is by any means a negative or positive event. It's like any deal. You're doing a deal. What is it about the way that we do deals, Clyde, that gets us in so much trouble?
Well, we tend to do deals that without looking at what we really get out of them. Take the Korean deal as an example. I met with some of the top White House officials while they were negotiating the deal, and I asked them, why are we doing this? What's our purpose here? And the reply was, we want to show support for South Korea. So what they were aiming at was some kind of a good touchy-feely relationship with South Korea. Jobs was really not the top priority. And so if you negotiate a deal that you're not really focusing on jobs, you're probably not going to create them.
Do you agree with that assessment, Congressman Miller?
There are specifics of each of the three deals that are reasons enough to be against them. And with the Korean deal, yes, the estimates are we're going to lose 159,000 jobs in 7 years. It's probably going to increase our trade deficit with Korea by almost $17 billion. But I do disagree with a little bit with the statement that nobody's really against trade. It's all about the specifics of the deals. For the last generation, we have seen increasing inequality, income inequality in the United States, and the cumulative effect of all these trade deals, without regard to the specifics of them, has been to be an accelerant to that income inequality. And the people who lose are winners and losers, but it's always the same losers. American workers are always the losers, and American corporate profits are always the winners.
How much of the nature of the trade policy, Congressman Miller, really has been driven by the auction nature of our policymaking body? In other words, GE, for instance, is the CEO of GE is the job czar for this president. Meanwhile, GE, as one of the biggest investors, developers in China, benefits tremendously from that at America's expense. Caterpillar, John Deere, Cummins engine. How much is the auction nature, the money and politics nature of this conversation distorting these trade agreements?
Well, there are large industries that do support it. And generally, the top business leadership, the American Chamber of Commerce is for all of them, obviously, always for all of them. And the financial sector is always for them as well, because they want to do business everywhere. Yeah. And also the trade deals have provisions that there can't be regulation of the financial industry that I would support.
Right.
So they end up getting, through a trade deal, preventing Congress from having re-regulating some of the practices that were deregulated a decade ago.
And Clyde, how can we have known registered multinational corporations who are explicitly not obliged to America in any way, shape, or form? Their only responsibility is to their shareholders to make money at the expense of any and all other interests, including the United States of America. They know that if they send a few $100 million, as they did for banking in 2010, as they did for health care in 2011, 2009 that the legislators will not change any of the policies because we have an auction system. How is it that the American people are supposed to sit here and legitimately listen to somebody tell us that banks and multinational corporations who do not have our interests are dictating America's trade policy?
Yeah, no, it's the job of people like you and I to make it clear to the public and to public leaders that the interests of American multinational companies are not the same thing as the interest of America. And Jeff Immelt, who is the chairman of GE and also the chairman of the President's Council on Jobs and Competitiveness, is a prime example. You know, President Obama is assuming when he makes Immelt the chairman of his Council on Jobs and Competitiveness that Immelt's interest and the interest of GE is the same as that of the United States. But it's not. And so the result is that GE makes decisions, and I'm not criticizing GE necessarily for making these decisions, but it makes decisions that may be good for GE in terms of gaining more access to Korea, but are not necessarily good for the United States.
Thanks for the conversation, guys. Congressman Miller, I thank you for your time this afternoon. Clyde, it's a pleasure to have the conversation. Like all of our major issues, banking, trade, taxes, healthcare, energy, education, this is a conversation that certainly is not going to go away anytime soon, although I kind of wish it would if we could just solve it, but I don't have my hopes up. Have a good weekend, guys. The debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.